This is why you died.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Is Why You Died, a horror podcast where we take apart movies like Leatherface takes apart his ladies, only we're more selective about our victims. As always, I am Sir Ian Dangerous, and joining me in wearing the skinned husks of our cinematic forays into the darkness, filmmaker and production company owner, Mr. Dan Marcha Madness, and new cat daddy and streamer extraordinaire, RyanRossLIVE. Greetings, boys. How are you doing tonight?
Wow, greetings. Man, that was a good shout out for me, Ryan. I don't know if that was a shout out or a put down.
I was gonna say, I feel like your titles have a little more prestige than mine today.
You are a popular streamer on Twitch. Don't knock yourself, man.
I'll take it. I'm very thankful for my community. I've got some wonderful folks.
I was about to say, yeah, you have something going there, something really great going there. Plus, you have two lovely cat children.
I do, and they're sweethearts. They're really settling in nicely, which is wonderful.
Good. Well, speaking of which, on a more serious note, guys, we do have to start this episode on a bit of a downer, and that is that we three live in Los Angeles, and this is the first time we've recorded an episode since all of the recent tragedies here. We've had just an absolute shitstorm of fires going on.
Still, everything. I mean, there's still fires happening even right now. As
we're burning everywhere. Yeah. Everything's burning.
Did it get up to 8? I know it got past 6. Is it up to 8 different fires? I think
it was 8 fires. Like when it first started on that first
wild.
Week, and like we're up to dozens and dozens and dozens in the LA area and surrounding areas. There's still one that's burning over 9,000 acres up above Valencia. Like it's relentless. But of course, the worst tragedies of that so far was what happened to Altadena and to the Pacific Palisades. Hundreds of people losing their houses, hundreds of people displaced. I am extremely grateful that the death toll was not higher than it was for all of that destruction and damage to happen, and not to downplay 26 deaths, but it is a miracle that it was only that many.
I know. At the height of the winds, it was traveling 2.5 football fields a second. That's fat. Like that, you can't outrun that.
No.
Wow.
If you're downwind, that's going to catch you.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
I was in downtown Burbank on the Tuesday night before everything happened, and they had wind gusts at the Burbank airport of nearly 90 miles an hour.
Wow.
And I was out in the streets with that wind, and we had a tree branch, like a 15-foot tree branch, going by horizontally in air. In the street in front of us. It was absolutely insane. We had a little 5-year-old with us. I was with some family members at Don Cuco's Tacos. Fantastic Mexican joint.
Oh, so good. I love that place.
So good. Ryan, you work close there. You have to treat yourself. But it's
I'll have to try it.
Not a good place to be walking outside of in gale force winds with a 5-year-old because we almost lost her. You're not kidding. Those winds were absolutely insane. And in over 24, 25 years in LA, I've only ever experienced anything close to that, maybe once. But guys, just wanted to check in with you, make sure everyone that you know is okay, that you guys are all right, you're safe and everything.
We have family spread throughout the San Fernando Valley. So of course we're kind of surrounded. We were surrounded by fires. We had the Palisades off, down south, and then we had the Eaton fire off to the left, and then there was another one that was burning off to the north. So it all just felt so terrifying. I've never been that sleepless for that long. It just like you're just up every night thinking like, is something going, like, am I going to get an alert? Do we need to leave now? Is there a fire? It's just having that thought process for a week straight was exhausting. And I think that everybody in LA, even if they weren't in a community that was directly affected, they all felt that sort of weight for that constant time until finally we got that reprieve and they were able to start getting some of the fires like under control. So, but luckily my family was safe, and we none of us had to really evacuate, which is good.
I'm really glad to hear that. And you're right, man. We had to wait until it died down. I don't care what anyone hears anywhere else, like about whose fault is what. You're not fighting a fire in 100-mile-per-hour winds. It doesn't happen. We had to wait for Mother Nature to calm down, and then we can get control of it. Beyond that, expecting anything different is ridiculous. But Ryan, you're okay, and everyone you know is okay. Just checking in with you as well.
Yes, luckily, so Sasha and I are also in the valley, and we're inland enough that we were also surrounded and had that kind of surreal feeling of seeing it in a bunch of different directions and seeing the large smoke clouds smeared across the sky. And I think one of the stranger moments was in that first week. One of the fires to the north was actually right near Sasha's school where she teaches. And so she had the end of that week off because it was within like a couple miles of her school, and that entire area got evacuated. We could see it from our window, especially at night, which was very strange. But we were very lucky that we too were inland enough that it didn't affect us. I had a couple close family members that were kind of in the vicinity of the Altadena area that was risky. My grandparents were within 1 block of the mandatory evacuation and were just on hold for a number of days. And then I had a family friend who's basically an uncle. He grew up with my parents, and we've known him. He's my little brother's godfather. We've known him for years and years. He was fully evacuated, but luckily his house was fine, but he was out of it for about a week. And just honestly, very strange all around. A very strange time, and we're very fortunate that we were in the position that we were.
Yeah, it's crazy how lucky a lot of people are, but also there's a lot of people that weren't as lucky. And actually that's something I want to talk about really quickly right now, because I know I work with people that lost their houses. I'm sure you guys have people that are in your extended group that have lost houses as well. Basically all walks of life. Altadena was a working class neighborhood. Palisades was an upper class neighborhood. People from all circles know people from those areas. Even the people who might have grown up there. I have a buddy who lost his childhood house, for example. It's gone. So one thing I wanted to do before we got into this show was to say, like, look, if anyone listening if you've got the ability to, I'd love to throw out some names and some addresses for some charities. If you guys can give to LA, if you can help out people in LA, that'd be great to do. Ryan, do you have a charity that you could shout out real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So the two I would point people to are the American Red Cross is huge for disaster relief and has been big in helping people on the ground with resources. And they actually on their website have a direct drop down for the Los Angeles 2025 wildfires that you can donate to. The other one is Habitat for Humanity, is doing a lot for those who did lose their houses or are displaced in any way. And so a lot of structures were burned down, and so there's a lot of people who don't have anywhere to go, and they lost all of their belongings, and Habitat for Humanity is a huge resource for those people to find places that they can stay, have shelter, have basic necessities. So those are kind of the two that I would point people to for either monetary donations or even supplies, clothes, toiletries, kind of basic needs stuff. These people lost everything. They don't have clothes for tomorrow sometimes. And so that type of stuff really makes a difference.
Amen. And I actually want to shout out, going full circle, it's not just the humans that are in trouble. There's also a lot of animals that have lost their homes, that are separated from their parents. There's also wildlife that's been displaced. I'm actually shouting out the Pasadena Animal Shelter, which has taken in nearly 1,000 animals, and they do not have the capacity for that, so they're struggling for money as well. So I'm going to shout out, if you want to help out the little critters, go to PasadenaHumane.org, and that's another charity I wanted to talk about. So thank you, everyone, in advance for helping out, if you could, if you have the ability to. Lord knows everyone's having a time right now, but yeah, if you can help out in any way, it would be immense and incredibly appreciated down here in Los Angeles. But getting back to a little bit lighter topics, speaking of Los Angeles, and really quick, because we have a movie to talk about, boys, but we cannot get into this movie without talking about the last movie that we talked about, which is The Substance, which just got nominated for 5 Academy Awards here in Los Angeles. It got nominated for Best Makeup and Hair, Best Screenplay, Best Director for Coralie Farjat, who did both the screenplay and directed, Best Picture, and of course, Best Actress for Demi Moore, which is
exciting.
It's insane.
This feels like Silence of the Lambs again. When it was like, and I was really young when that happened, so I probably don't know the feeling, but like, it feels like a horror movie and everybody knows it's a horror movie is now being brought to the big time and has a really great chance of winning some of those statues. It's not just like, oh, we'll put them in best picture, where they now have, what is it, like 10 categories, like 10 seats. Is like they opened it up, but now it's like, no, it's taking up significant space. It made a significant statement for last year and for all time, and I'm so excited. I really think like it has a great chance. What do you guys think?
I saw on social media a number of the like listicles that show the nominations, where it's like, here are the different movies nominated for each category. A lot of them used images of the substance in the best picture category list. And I was like, that says something when you're using the imagery.
There's a big groundswell for it. And I will say, like, while it is very validating for horror fans to have one of our babies finally get recognized, because it is, of course, a genre that is not usually thought of as being best picture or best director material, to get those kinds of big nominations is a big deal. I will say this: Silence of the Lambs can easily pass as a drama with dark undertones.
True.
Nothing like The Substance, I think, has ever. I mean, maybe in the wake of Everything Everywhere All at Once, weird movies are getting a bit more looked at, but there's no movie with anything close to Monstro Elisasu that's ever been nominated for Best Picture that I can think of. That's
an excellent point.
This is bananas. So I'm very excited about that. Had to throw that out there.
Although I'm all for this kind of like funky, like kind of deeper meaning psychological journey film movement that we're getting into. I don't know. Like, obviously it's so fresh. I don't know that there's like a name for the movement of art that we're seeing, but we're definitely witnessing like a evolution of film in real time, and kind of a birth of like a new cultural genre zeitgeisty thing going on between kind of like what you said with Everything Everywhere All at Once into The Substance, and these movies getting such attention. There's definitely some through line there of the kind of chaotic, very disparate ideas slammed together into kind of like a profound meaning. I feel like that's telling in a lot of ways. It
is telling, and I feel like it's actually more telling about society in general, because those films have always existed. They're, I think, just finally breaking through to the mainstream and mainstream acceptance, and that's what's exciting. That's really cool.
For sure.
So, but speaking of balls to the wall crazy movies that no one sees coming, we got to talk about our movie for today, which was Ryan's choice. Ryan, you want to talk about
sweating already over there?
Yeah,
so looks like he's about to pass out.
Really quickly, if this is your first time listening to the show, we're finally getting into the show now, 15 minutes in, because we had some important stuff to talk about. So this show's going to go as long as it needs to. But if this is your first time joining us, really quickly, what we do is at the end of every show, one of us draws a prompt from out of our little macabre receptacles that we have. And then based on that prompt, we're inspired to choose a film. And then we all watch that movie and we come back here and we discuss it the following week. And this week was Ryan's pick. And Ryan, what was your prompt and what movie did you pick?
So my prompt was Betrayal, which is tough because considering that I am not super familiar with most horror movies, Betrayal tends to be a twist. It tends to be something that you're not supposed to see coming. And so I kind of enlisted some help here, both between I have a community member who sent me a list of horror movies that she would recommend. Shout outs to Kristen. And then I showed you guys that list and you guys were like, actually, for Betrayal, this movie would be a very good candidate. So from that list and from your guys' kind of nudge, we went with Audition, which I knew literally nothing about. Completely blind.
Oh, yeah.
And I was not prepared for this movie. Oh, man.
It's hard to be prepared for Audition, even when you know going in that betrayal is the theme, is the prompt. It's hard to see Audition coming. Audition, we're of course referring to the 1999 Takashi Miike film. If you don't know who Takashi Miike is, do you know Takashi Miike? Have you heard of Takashi Miike before, Ryan? Or
I've heard people mispronounce his name. I had heard it as Takashi Miike, but I did not know. I had not actually heard it as Takashi Miike, but I was familiar with at least his his name in a nebulous sense. I couldn't assign anything to him. But yes, I was familiar with his reputation. His reputation preceded him, if you will.
Yeah, he's a wild filmmaker. It's funny if you really deep dive into his films, you'll realize he's actually done like every genre. He's known for his horror movies, but he's done like musicals and kid films and spy thrillers and adaptations of anime. He did the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure adaptation. Like
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's dipped his toes in everything. He's done TV, he's done direct to video, he's done all kinds of stuff. He's also probably one of the most censored Japanese filmmakers that's currently working. Like he's had stuff. Like he had a very famous, they did a series called Masters of Horror for, I think it was Showtime. And it was supposed to be all of these famous horror creatives and directors were going to get together and each one of them got an episode on this show and it was going to push the boundaries and be really crazy. And guess whose episode got censored everywhere? Banned, even in the United States. Takashi Miike.
Oh, wow.
His episode was the 13th episode of the show. Is called Imprint. And it was so fucked up that even the guy who ran the show, Mick Garris, who's a horror legend, was like, it's the most fucked up movie I've ever seen.
Have you seen it? Like, is it viewable or they just didn't?
Oh yeah, you can find
what?
it now. Yeah, you can find Imprint now, and it's not the most fucked up movie I've ever seen, but I've seen some very, very fucked up movies. It's up there though. It's pretty gnarly. But that being said, so Audition was the movie that introduced him to Western audiences way back in the 90s and early 2000s. We didn't really get the DVDs here until like the 2000s. I think I watched it the first time in like 2001 on a shitty DVD where I could see like these giant blocks of, static in the background. Like it was a terrible transfer. But yeah, it blew my mind then. This is the first time seeing it since then. So that being said, Ryan has been introduced to Audition for the very first time. Dan, I don't know about you, but I'm dying to hear this. Ryan, I'm going to open it up.
Yeah.
Now that we've introduced the movie. Spoilers ahead. Ryan, take it away.
And to be fair, also for clarity of the audience, not to be mixed up with The Audition. There is also a The Audition that I think is also a horror movie that's more recent. We're not talking about that movie.
No.
What the fuck is this movie, guys? Like, here's the deal. Like, I went into this movie knowing almost nothing other than like, okay, there's going to be a betrayal. There's going to be a twist. Obviously, like that being the prompt and that being the decision, I knew that was coming at some point. But I honestly was anticipating that maybe there was some plot with the best friend where he was going to like set something up to screw the guy over or whatever. And then as you get further and further into the movie, you're like, okay, there's something up with this woman. And like, what's wrong? What's happening here? And they kind of they boil the frog.
That frog is boiled.
They slowly turn it up throughout the movie. And then you get to the end and I didn't know what's going on. You don't know what's real. You don't know what's imagined. You don't know what's like. They're redoing scenes from earlier in the movie with different lines and context, and you're jumping, sequencing. And I was like, what is going on? And so Sasha and I watched it together. We were just sitting there like, what the fuck? And also, terrible idea to watch right before bed. It was like 11:45 at night, and we are watching a man get needles driven into his body, and they sit on it. They just sit on both like they sit on the moment in the film, and then she literally sits on the needles. Like, oh
on
my
him.
Goodness.
Sits on the needles on him. Kitty, 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 kitty. Kitty, kitty,
oh
kitty.
My god! That was probably the most viscerally uncomfortable. Well, that and Gerald's Game were the two. Gerald's Game really made my stomach lurch. This was the one that my entire body was like just clenched.
Yeah,
you're just waiting for it, and they're just wallowing in it.
Oh yeah.
Well, with Gerald's Game, it got through it. Like it gave you the shock and the horror, but it took a minute and it got through it. And Audition literally just sits in everything, and like the camera just doesn't cut away, and you just feel it all. And the sound design, I forgot about how uncomfortable the sound design is, especially like when she's flicking the needles and you hear how metallic. Oh my gosh, it just made my I want to pass out right now thinking about it.
Dude,
my gosh,
the worst thing for me, that you said the sound design, You said the sound design. The worst thing for me is she's got the wire around his foot, and she's going back the piano wire. She's sawing back and forth, zit, 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 and then she gets through the meat to the bone, and the sound of that, the little screech, like it's like claws on a chalkboard, on the bone when she's sawing at the bone with the piano wire. Oh, that's the one that gets me. Man. Teeth on edge.
We jumped right into this movie right now, guys.
It's the difference between like one of those like Towers of Terror where you like Gerald's Game is the stomach lurch of like the quick drop, and this one's like that one roller coaster at every fair where you end up upside down and it just sits there for a few seconds before it lets you go back again, and you're just waiting with that all the blood rush in your head like
Yeah, it's excruciating, and it's obviously just like Gerald's Game is known for the scene. Audition is fucking known for the ending, the end scene. And whereas Gerald's Game, at least the scene is her escaping, it's redemptive, it's empowering, and you get through it, and she's stronger afterwards, and you're like, you go, girl. In this one, you're saying go, girl, in another way. Go, get away, get out of here. Go on, get out, scram, get off of him. Oh, God. And it just keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going. But, okay, so the torture scene's awful. Did he deserve it?
So, okay. I did a little research, right? Because, of course, the movies vary all over the place at the end, and there's interpretations that I'm sure we'll get into. But I do think there's something to be said about they do a good job of making him relatable and making him seem like generally he's a pretty good guy in the scenes in the setting that we see him in. He seems like, well, he's well-intentioned, he's a good dad, like all this stuff. But in the big reveal, and to Dan's point, we're just diving right in.
Oh yeah, no
if
lube.
you ignored the spoiler warning, you're done here. But like during the whole kind of big reveal, we get a lot of he slept with his secretary. He fantasized about his son's girlfriend. He cheated with the maid who's also married. Like he ends up, you find out that he's not only kind of a womanizer, but he's a user. He's taking advantage of positions of power. And whether we don't really know whether that's how intentional that is, how aware he is of that decision. That's kind of left to interpretation of like, is it misguided? Is it something that like he doesn't know better and he's a good guy who's making bad decisions without like not intentionally manipulating his power? Or is it somebody who doesn't care and is just about the means to the end? Like that's all left kind of ambiguous. But there's definitely something to be said about the fact that like he's not that great of a guy. He's done some bad shit and there's guilt that he's carrying, and that it's not as clean cut a tableau as we're originally led to believe, for sure.
And I think that's actually a really powerful statement by the movie, whether it's super intentional or not on Miike's part. The way that his character is shown at the beginning, the first half of the movie, the joke has been made many times. It could be easily misconstrued as a romantic comedy, like a 1990s, When Harry Met Sally kind of thing. And they even have some like light fun music through some of those scenes. And the whole premise is that he is convinced by his friend, his wife's been dead for 7 years. His son says, Dad, you should remarry. And he's like, yeah, maybe I should. And then his good buddy, the filmmaker's like, dude, I'll hold a fake audition for a movie that I may or may not make. And you choose one of the women that we're not actually going to cast, and you seduce her to make her your wife, which is on the surface. And they touch upon it. It's disingenuous. It's creepy, but, and he's like, oh, I feel a little bad, but he goes along with it. He gets down with it. He's totally fine with it. And just the casual way that he's able to do all that, as you say, like at the time, it's the sort of thing that you would excuse in a Western romantic comedy. Think about the psychosis of some of the people in like some like all-time beloved romantic comedies. Like Love Actually is one that I always go back to as having the most sociopathic assholes in one movie. But we give them a pass because, they're doing it for love, and they find
and
love,
they're attractive, usually.
and they're hot. And
passes you get for being attractive.
And this guy is kind of a Japanese zaddy. I'm just gonna say he's a good looking dude. He's a pretty man. The actor his name is Ryo Ishibashi. He was actually a rock star. He was in a Japanese band called ARB. Alexander's
That's
Ragtime Band. This was like one of his first movies that he transitioned into being a film.
Okay. He's got that quality of being like a kind of a movie star anyways. I would never have known this is like one of his early roles.
Yeah, which is why it makes it so you're like kind of on his side. You're a bit rooting for him, even though he's doing this scurrilous stuff. And as it goes on, you realize the movie it's making you think that they're going to work out, and she's going to fuck it up because she's weird somehow. And his friend's like, I don't trust her. So something weird about her. There's something off. And you keep finding this things that are off about her. And even then, like, oh, she was abused as a child. Okay, well, I can handle that. We've all got our issues, right? It's what he says. But at the end, it's about him casually. And Ryan, you pointed that out. It's how casual it is. He doesn't even notice. He doesn't even register. He's abusing his positions of power as a business owner, as a man in Japan, right?
And as an elder too. They mentioned the age gap as well. The fact that the son's like, oh, she's almost my age. It's like, ooh.
She's like, what, 7 years older than the son or something like that. And she's in her early 20s. Yeah.
He's like 40 something.
Yeah. Every kind of power dynamic he could have over her, money, power, sex and gender, like he's got it all. And he doesn't realize how casually he could absolutely destroy her life. And that's why the ending, in a way, could be argued as being cathartic, because he fucked with the wrong chick.
Yeah.
Although the dog didn't deserve it.
No, the dog, that's fucked up. But, you know.
The dog, like, I knew the minute they introduced the dog, the minute they call the dog in, I'm like, the dog's gonna
like
die.
Damn,
And then they kept having the dog throughout, and I was like, maybe the dog's gonna be fine. And then the minute that they like have the whole, she walks in and the dog goes out of the room, I'm like, and that's the dog. And Sasha goes, they wouldn't.
There goes the dog.
They wouldn't. And I was like, I think they would.
Oh, they're totally,
When they do the reveal, the door swings open, and I will point out, Sasha said before they revealed it, she goes, if they kill the dog, I'm done. And the door swings open, the dog said, she was like, no.
Although I will say the movie does have an ironic sense of karma. The dog had its neck broken, and how does Asami go out?
Very true.
Kicked down the stairs by the son after she tries to spray him. Who attacks someone with a little like perfume sprayer?
Was that supposed to like paralyze him? Was that the thing?
Yeah,
it was like
I guess she like spraying with a paralysis. Like,
I assumed it was some sort of like knockout chemical.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like gonna like.
I just thought it was funny when he like by the third spray he even was like, "What are you doing?
What the fuck are you doing?
What is this?
Get off me!" And he soccer punts her down the stairs. She just goes because she's like, you know, maybe 60 pounds soaking wet. She just goes flying through the air and ends up with her neck broken. So that's what you get, lady, if you break a dog's neck. So you get what's coming to you. But he got what was coming to him, maybe. Does anyone deserve that level of torture? I don't know. Does anyone deserve to have done to them what he did to the women in his life? Even his wife, her spirit was giving him some really ugly looks in those flashbacks.
That's true. Dan, I want to hear your thoughts. You've been quiet.
Yeah, Dan has been ruminating on the sound of flesh being cut, I think, over there.
This is my third time, I think, seeing Audition now.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm sick like that where I'm like, yeah, you know, let's just watch this guy get tortured again. That's fun.
Wait, I've watched it 5 times. What does that make me?
Oh God. Why?
It's funny.
Oh God.
So there's
I'm concerned for my safety. I want out.
I was actually surprised. I surprised myself this time because there was major things that I guess either wasn't necessarily paying attention to, or they didn't stay locked in my brain as much as the horror that they show you in the end, and then in those horrific flashbacks, especially with the rolling sack and what comes out of the sack. But
she feeds the sack.
Oh my God, that's one of the, besides the torture scene at the end. We don't have to relive that. But that sound and that scene is what I remember the most.
He just goes into that dog bowl like man hasn't eaten in weeks.
Because he hasn't.
Don't have to relive that.
Oh my gosh!
She like a mama bird brings it home.
Okay, before I vomit, let me get to my point.
Do you have a sack there? You could feed it.
I forgot about how fantastic the editing is and how confusing it is, how it jumps around in time, but how it's like using the jumping around in time and using like almost telling you like alternative versions of these same moments where you kind of get to then put together the meaning yourself. I feel like it puts a lot more into the viewer's hands because of the editing approach. And that was something that I didn't really pay attention to the first few times I've seen it. And then another thing that's changed is now that I am a father, it really and I'm a father of 2 girls. So it really affected the way that I'm seeing something that's happening. And this girl was definitely abused as a child, and seeing that it's like, yeah, I mean, if you're doing that to a child and she, what do you expect that could occur? It hit me in a different way now as a dad, and also as a dad of 2 girls. It definitely hit me in a different way than when I saw it. When I first saw it back when you did, like in the mid 2000s, when that boom, like at Blockbuster, you could see that like there was that one section of just like Japanese horror, that wave that hit. Like that's when I was like, oh, Audition, I've heard about this one. Let me check this one out. And it was kind of like my introduction to that subgenre, that world anyways too. But it definitely hit different this time based off life experience. So that was something I wasn't expecting upon viewing it.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, it does really, the more you watch it, the more you get out of it. I will say that. It makes the first 2/3 of the movie a lot harder to watch, because you're just like, okay, this is a descent, we're filling time right now. And I definitely have a harder time getting through the first 2/3 because it takes so long for things to happen, and it's just excruciating. It's more excruciating to me than the end.
That's so funny. I thought that was just me. I thought that this third time, I was like, geez, just come on. And I finally, so much so that I was like, minute 43, that's when it changes. That's the exact moment at 43 minutes in, when it cuts to her just sitting there with the sack and a phone on the floor, and you're like, what the hell is this?
Wait a second.
What's going on? And that's when I
thought that she was a demon. Oh. I thought that it was going to take a mythological, I thought that we were going to get like, this is some Japanese, because I know the Japanese have a lot of very like popular mythology stories and creatures that populate a lot of their media, and I'm not super familiar with a lot of the details of those specific creatures, but I thought for that shot, that moment where she's sitting there with her neck down and you're seeing the back of her spine and the phone's ringing and she's just standing stock still, I at that moment was like, I don't think that this is a human story. I'm starting to think we're getting supernatural here. And that wasn't fully the case, but they very much lean that vibe for a bit, and they definitely get really funky with it. I thought for sure we were going to get like, it's some man-eating Japanese demon that hunts the souls of the guilty or something like that.
I mean, you're not wrong. There's a ton of those kinds of movies out there. The Ring was the movie that came out before this one, that actually, this is the same production company. They wanted to make another horror movie that was as successful as Ring, and they made this. And you had The Grudge, and you had Noroi, and you had Dark Water, all the other Japanese horror movies that were supernatural. And this was one of the ones where it's just like, nah, man, people can be just as fucked up as anything else.
Yeah.
And this one, it goes so hard that it's hard to think about. I mean, I'm kind of glad it didn't go supernatural. I'm glad that it was just showing the ultimate extremity of where people could go.
Yeah, although it gets a little funky when like at least some of his visions and stuff, you don't know what's real and what he's imagining, or what is a nightmare and what's projected. It definitely starts to get a little, I won't say supernatural, but at least surreal,
existential,
in terms of,
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some elements of like, there are places that he can't be, given the timeline that is just left ambiguous. I did a little, as I said, I did a little research, because we got to the end of the movie and it kind of just ends.
Yes, it does.
You get through this whole, it throws this whole mess at you at the end, and then it just is like, and we're done. And you're like, what happened? And as I said, it edits stuff that happened earlier in the movie with different contexts. And so then you're like, I don't know which one actually occurred. And so I was trying to do some research of like, okay, what things have I not connected here? What pieces of information am I missing? And I did find a thread that kind of had, apparently there's a book, And in the book, it clarifies some of the stuff that's left ambiguous in the movie in terms of like the guy in the bag being the record producer is implied in the movie, whereas that's not necessarily in the book as directly. But some of the stuff in the movie is actually softer than in the book, wildly, in terms of like, she gets pushed down the stairs and is basically there, and he calls the police or whatever. In the book, supposedly, I haven't read it, but from what I read, she gets kicked off of him and gets brutally injured and her bones broken, but is able to get up and keep chasing him and yelling at the son that he's a liar. And the son has to like beat her down in order to get safe. And there's all sorts of funky stuff that happens. But it seemed to imply that a lot of the visions that he has, both of his wife and of some of these scenes, are projections of his own guilt, A, and B, like contextual clues of the setting of the girl, even though he is unrelated to those things in terms of like the apartment he could never physically be in. And they said that they cut a scene where in one of the restaurant dates that they have, which they already do kind of some weird time jumpy things in some of the like restaurant date scenes. But in the book, it says that they somebody in one of the restaurants is in a wheelchair and recognizes her and like throws a fit because he sees her there and freaks out and has to get wheeled out of the restaurant, and she has to like play it off. So there's all sorts of weird stuff happening.
Yeah, and the great thing about the movie, which a lot of people actually prefer to the book, interestingly enough, is because it's a little bit more subtle and reserved, and it makes you think more about what's going on as opposed to being very on the nose. And as you said, man, it's crazy to think like this movie isn't as on the nose as it could have been, right? As almost clinical as this movie is about all of its scenes and its violence and its depravity, it could have been more so. It could have been more brutal, and that's crazy. I'm actually really glad that it's insane to say this. I'm really glad that Miike had the restraint that he did, because as a result, I think the movie has more impact. And it feels like in those scenes, having watched it a couple of times, like we're seeing him experience her viewpoints. And up until that point, he's seeing the world through his blinders, right? It's his memory.
I like that.
It's his memory of the scenes. It's his memory of the moments. And then he's re-experiencing it through her mind. He falls down. She drugs him. He falls down. He goes into this whatever dream state where he sees all these scenes. And it's not necessarily through his singular perspective anymore. He's now experiencing, he's perhaps having a moment of clarity, a moment of empathy for her and for other women that he has trampled on in his carelessness, in his entitlement. And that's the great thing about film, is it doesn't have to spell it out for you. It can let you just experience it as he's experiencing.
One section I really noticed that upon watching it this time was, and maybe now I'm kind of interpreting it a different way now that we're talking about it, is when he originally asks her about her family, at dinner, and she's like, oh yeah, they just bought a home, they're, blah, blah, blah. It's like, sounds like this lovely family that she has. And then when we cut after the attacks occurring and we cut back to it, she's like really like unloading and kind of being honest and open with him. And he's being very quiet and almost dismissive in a way of like, if you don't want to talk about it because it's going to make you uncomfortable, which is him just saying like, I'm uncomfortable right now. Stop talking about your family. It made me think like, did he hear the real thing and is like, and remembered like, oh, she must have a happy family, or like, or was she lying and this was like the truth, and now he's just kind of getting that he's just interpreting.
Did
the
he
truth.
censor his own memory? Yeah, that's
where I'm kind of like even looking into it more now myself, like as we talk about it, like what did he do?
As far as Japanese manners, I'm not an expert, but I do wonder if in that scene where he's saying, if you don't want to talk about it, it's a very Japanese way of saying, please don't talk about it. I really don't care. I'm giving you the opportunity to shut up.
Well, and kind of an extension of that, I think like one of the hotel flashback also like in the original, she leaves and he goes searching for her, and then during the whole like breakdown, he's back in it. She's still there. She accepts his proposal. He's aware that he lost his foot and like goes to check that it's there. There's this really weird time play stuff going on, and one of the speculations that I read is that she leaves because he, after he promises to love only her, admits he has a son, and that's how she determines that he was lying in the first place, and that's like kind of what triggers this whole thing. But also to take that level of ownership that like you can love only me, including your son, including like familial, non-romantic relationships, is bonkers. But I mean, admittedly, she is extremely damaged. She's been through a lot. The whole thing's all over the place with a bunch of different stuff going on. And I think one of the elements of the movie that kind of helped sell it, so to speak, in terms of kind of what we were talking about of allowing it to succeed in the way that it does, is I think visually, I at least I assume from what the book being kind of, as you said, on the nose, if that's the reputation it has, I wonder if the visual representation, and I don't know the word I'm looking for here, it's not sympathetic and it's not compassionate or empathetic, but almost like with him, making him more relatable, making us kind of identify the positive. We see him in more of a positive light in the early half because we see visually all of the stuff that's happening in his personal life that he does kind of handle a little bit better, like his son. And we see how like excited he is to be in love again. And we have like these more humanizing moments that we can see visually in his expressions and his emotions. And to your point, then we are able to, we slide those over kind of the problematic stuff of like, he's setting up this faux audition to basically like lie to a woman, and then there's this age gap and he's abusing a position of power. But because we visually see that like he's not ill-intentioned, he just wants to be happy, and we're able to visually see his perspective.
But the thing is like we're being tricked into being complicit in what he's doing. And I mean, we're there. We see the bullshit he's doing. He literally describes when he gets all of the audition. What would you call? What would you call the resumes?
Or whatever, yeah.
The resumes. Well, yeah, whatever. He's sorting through in the ball. Applications. He's got all them on his desk with the pictures and this essay where they're being very personal about themselves. And he says to his buddy on the phone, he's like, "Man, I'm having a harder time choosing this than I had choosing my car." Right? Like
that hurt.
The way when he was talking to his friend at the bar about what he wants in a woman, and he's being so specific. Well, she can't like this thing too much because I don't want to, she's going to be too expensive if she's too into piano, and I want her to not have a real career going because if she has too much of a career, then she won't be at home to take care of me. And it's like,
but she has to have some accomplishments. She can't be a total loser. Like right. It was rough.
I want her to have accomplished something and failed at it so that she won't have any more interest in it. It's the most fucked up misogynist shit. And we're like, but we give it a pass.
Mm-hmm. But even beyond that, all the actual auditions themselves, like seeing not only the questions that they ask, but then some of the women are like stripping in this room for them on camera. Like they really lean into the power play here of these two men are able to basically ask for whatever they want.
The sliminess of the film industry too. I mean, by the way, have you guys seen Kill Bill? Because his friend, the guy who plays his friend, has been in just tons and tons and tons of movies. But I think for Western audiences, you might know him as one of the Yakuza bosses in the scene with Lucy Liu when she's in Japan. And he was also, if you ever saw the remake of Unforgiven, they remade Unforgiven almost exactly with Ken Watanabe in the Clint Eastwood role in Japan.
Really?
As a Jidaigeki. And
what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so, but that actor played the Richard Harris role in that remake. I recommend seeking it out. But yeah, dude, cool. Like we're seeing him do all this heinous shit and we let him get away with it the way he's gotten away with it his whole life, because the movie essentially just shows us all the nice things about him. And
his son is a huge, they really lean on his son to be like, oh, but he's just a good dad.
Right.
Yeah.
He's just
his son doesn't know. Dad. His son is involved in his own shit. He's not paying attention. His dad's always great to him. And that's
honestly, it's almost Breaking Bad in that way.
Right.
Of like, they really lean on the guilt of the kid to really try and humanize the monstrous actions that the dads do.
His son did say something when we meet the girlfriend that I thought was a little odd too, that then made me question, like, oh, the way that he's acted has rubbed down to his son, where it's like, she was pretty, so I talked to her. Like,
yeah,
right.
I was like, that's a weird thing to say right in front of her too. Like, that's something you would say to your dad, like, oh, she's really cute, I wanted to talk to her. But he's like, in front of her, like, she's pretty, I will talk to her. You know, it was so
and then
weird.
also he says to his dad, hey dad, when you find a wife, I hope she's prettier than our maid.
Yeah, and she has to cook better.
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So it's all right there. But all right, so we've dissected this movie. Speaking of dissection, I want to talk about one more thing before we rate this movie and move on. And that is torture porn. Because this was proto torture porn. It's not actually technically considered torture porn because it's came around before that was really codified. David Edelstein didn't use the term until much later. And torture porn, I want to define it really quickly. It is a sub genre of horror. It happened mostly in the 2000s through like maybe at the latest, the mid 2010s. You occasionally get one here and there, but that's when the height of it was. And it was really affecting a lot of other genres. It is technically a mix of splatter and slashers. The focus on bodily harm and pain to an extreme degree. It's meant to push audiences' boundaries, and it's supposed to create emotion on the audience through scenes of extended suffering, but it's more violent than a slasher movie, and it's more visceral than a splatter movie. Does this movie, as far as torture porn, like, should we consider this a proto-torture porn? Or is this something, because Eli Roth straight up said this movie was an absolute inspiration for Hostel, one of the first ever torture porn movies. And in fact, Takashi Miike has a cameo in Hostel as one of the satisfied customers.
Hilarious.
For if you want a direct connection. Do we consider this movie like a grandfather to the torture porn genre? Did this feel like torture porn to you guys? Or did it feel like it was, and Ryan, this is partly for you, Dan, as someone who knows the torture porn genre. And Ryan, the question is for you as someone who doesn't really know the genre, but was the torture validated as a plot device, or was it extraneous? Was it too much?
Dan, I'll let you go first because I feel like my answer is going to be a lot shorter than yours.
Oh wow, okay. I immediately lean towards no, this isn't a torture porn movie, but as you're talking about like how it influenced and that he influenced Eli Roth so much that he would put him in Hostel, maybe it opened the door to make it like acceptable, you know, like it's a baby step, like, oh, look at what we can do. Look at how we can, look how we can show this torture in a way, but it doesn't feel like that exact genre yet because, man, torture porn movies such as, Saw kind of kicked it off, but when you go into Hostel, and that's where, and especially Hostel 2, I think it's like it's putting it on screen because they want to punish the audience or like challenge the audience. Can you sit through this? Whereas this movie is making him suffer and see it so that he can experience these moments of clarity, I guess, to understand what his actions have done throughout his life and how he's affected women throughout his life, from his wife all the way up to now this woman that he's messed with. Is like, that's where I think it's a more valid plot device to be used against him so that he can suffer through what he's done. Whereas Saw and all those, as they extended and went past, the sequels, is more just like, how far can we push it? How gross can we make it? How will the audience be able to sit through it? How much are they going to tweet, or, how much are they going to post about it? So that's, I guess that's my 2 cents. It probably led to it, but it's definitely not in that category. I think it has more to it than that.
Fair enough. Ryan, you said you had a fairly quick answer to this.
Well, I mean, fairly quick in terms of I'm not very familiar with torture porn at all. So I feel like I can't really speak on the broader genre sense. But I do think that, to Dan's point, I think the torture in this movie definitely has a purpose. I do think they sit in it intentionally in a way that, like, it's meant to be viscerally uncomfortable, and boy, does it succeed at that. But I do think it's justified within the context. And one of the things I actually caught on watching that I called out in that they highlight is when she goes to his house, she sees the picture of his wife and she doesn't know that the wife is dead. So she probably assumes that he is still married, which I also imagine heightens like
even if
not
he's
only her
not,
frustration.
even if he's not, he still has her picture out, which means he still has an emotional connection to her.
Correct. Which means which furthers her conception that he's a liar.
Bingo.
And so like the whole thing, that particular shot, I thought was a really cool ad of like her specifically seeing and noticing and absorbing that information. I don't know. It was just, I think another thing that I want to touch on, he is obsessive over her. He there are so many moments during the point where she goes missing where he could bail out. He runs into her creepy stepdad and he says all sorts of horrifying things. He finds the abandoned dance studio. He finds the abandoned bar. He gets told this creepy story by a neighbor. There's so many different points where he could be like, he's proven multiple times that she's lied to him repeatedly. And he just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And she then plays off of that as well. It's just, there's so many layers to it that are just so viscerally uncomfortable.
I mean, he's a widower. It's like the first time he's gotten laid in at least a couple of years. You know, he's
God,
24.
Well, we don't know the timeline of the other women.
No, I jest. It is truly disturbing, and we don't think it's disturbing again because we're still kind of on his side, and we're still in that mindset of the romantic comedy. Well, as long as it's for love, then I guess I can excuse it. No, it's
sympathetic light. That's the word.
In a sympathetic light?
Yes.
Yeah, it's cast all over him all throughout this movie. And at the end, we're forced to sit there and go, should I have? Wow, did he really trick me? Who am I supposed to sympathize with here? Yeah. And that messes with your emotions almost as much as the torture does.
Oh, Ian, what were you? I didn't get your. Did you think that this is a torture porn? Where does it fall in the category for you?
Actually, so I'm actually going to call back to an earlier episode of this very show when we talked about whether or not Psycho was a slasher. I think Psycho is a slasher in the way this is a torture porn. There's a lot of elements of it that you can see later on. It certainly was an influence, but I don't know if it directly can be called one. A proto-torture porn, maybe. But again, I think that a lot of the things that codified what made torture porn a subgenre are not present in this movie. And I think that a lot of the torture that is in this movie is not pointless. It's not just to shock the audience. It is meant to shock the audience, but not in the way that torture porn is, where it's just for the sake of visceral horrificness. It's meant in this one to actually also emotionally affect you. And that's why I think it gets off the hook from being put into that genre, which is kind of looked down on. It's like the new metal of horror movies.
Yeah. I like that you said off the hook, because in
Hooks.
Hostel 2, there's a pretty good hook.
There's a good hook scene. Is that a hook
really
scene?
Good hook scene.
Maybe one day you'll experience it, Ryan.
He's like,
nope. You guys made me watch Audition. That was bad enough. Well, speaking of which, all right, so we have a little tradition on this show that we've named the show after. It's called This Is Why You Died. All right, gentlemen, we have to go around the circle here and figure out why people died in this movie. And, not many people actually die on screen, but we can assume...
But we have victims.
Yeah, we got victims. We got victims. So let's say this is why you were victimized in this movie. Dan, would you like to go first with the This Is Why You Victimized?
You know what is funny is I am so confused with all the time jumping and what was real and what was not real that, like... Sometimes she killed somebody in some of the flashbacks, and sometimes he actually talked to them. So, for instance, the uncle guy, is he dead? Did he kill her?
No, he sees him in reality. He goes to the old ballet school, and the dude's really there.
But then she cuts off his head and it hits the piano.
Maybe that's
right.
I think maybe she went and killed him afterwards. We'll call him dead.
Know.
We'll call him dead. We saw him die.
We call him dead. If he's dead, this guy with the what is he? He's got some burning incense and he's burning. No, you got to go, man. You don't do that to kids. Like, yeah, bye.
That's the
He deserved it.
That to me is the most
deserved that.
disturbing.
He deserved it.
It's the most disturbing image in this film. Is
It
a
is, that guy, yeah,
prepubescent
and they-
girl in her underwear and undershirt, sitting on the ground with her legs open. This guy's crawling towards her with these incense sticks and like the way he's looking at her and the way he holds them out to burn her on the leg is just that is the grossest thing in the movie to me.
Or that the fact that they have the multiple shots where they implied like, oh, he made me dance for him, and then they have the one shot of him under his robe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's-
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, he died because he had to die.
He had
He
to die.
deserved it.
He deserved
Yeah,
it.
he deserved
so that's
it.
my choice.
Honestly,
Nothing
out of-
funny about
I
that. That is completely 100% serious. We wanted. He needs to die.
Yeah.
I think out of every movie we've watched so far, if there's one person who deserved to die, it's that guy.
That guy.
Like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Like,
There's always the one to fuck that guy. That's
fuck that
we have
guy.
to. You know
That
what?
guy deserved to die.
We gotta start that on the show. I think this is the episode we start the FTG awards. If
I
there's
like that.
If it's the fuck that guy award. If there's someone who dies,
Is there a fuck that guy? And we have to unanimously agree.
Yes.
Is there a fuck that guy
And
in this movie?
I feel like in every slasher movie, there's a definite fuck that guy.
There's
That's like, yeah,
always
cool,
a
he
fuck
got
that
killed.
guy.
Fuck that guy. Yeah.
that guy sucks.
there's always a fuck that guy.
Oh,
Nearly
God.
always. I mean, I can think of. I mean, what? Let's look at the movies we've already done. The Invitation, the record producer boyfriend. Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy. Yeah.
Fuck that. He's the fuck that guy in that one.
Yeah. David. Fuck David.
Fuck David. Yeah, David. Yeah. Fuck that guy. All right, so you chose the uncle there, Dan. Fuck that guy. He gets to fuck that guy. This is why you died. Ryan, who do you have in this movie? Why did they die?
I'm gonna take the sad one, boys.
Oh, man.
No.
So the dog.
Oh no.
The dog died because the dog didn't bark when a stranger was in the house. The maid left and a stranger came in, and the dog didn't make any noise. It didn't freak out. It just went to investigate the next room and just kind of waddled
It's
into the
a
next
friendly
room.
Japanese dog. He's a friend.
I
He's
agree.
a puppy.
Look, I agree. I'm just saying,
Heartless.
like dogs. Look, I'm not saying the dog did anything wrong. I'm not blaming the dog here. I'm just logically saying that had the dog reacted to a stranger and barked, Japan is a very populated place. People
Ryan,
get attention for
They
noise.
also
Ryan,
train their dogs to not bark.
I am getting.
That's also probably
I am
true.
getting flashbacks from our very first official episode when Ian was getting mad at me for getting mad at Drew for not yelling at the parents, and I'm like, listen, I'm not blaming her. I'm just saying this is why she died. So it's like I get it. You're not mad at the dog, but this was the reason that the dog did die.
The dog didn't do anything wrong, but the dog. The dog unfortunately doomed itself when it didn't make noise and just went to investigate the stranger in the house.
The dog
this
is
is
look,
sad.
Drew Barrymore
This
at
is
the end of the
sad.
day, she's cute, but she's not that cute. This is a puppy. And you are accusing it of not saving its own life.
No.
It's too friendly to live.
No. It is innocent. I'm not. Again, it's not at fault. It just made a mistake. You can innocently make mistakes. It didn't like. Not that it would even know better. I'm just saying logically, it died because it didn't bark and it didn't know better, and it suffered due to its lack of knowledge. It could have warned anyone. It could have drawn attention.
Oh my God.
And instead it was too friendly. The dog was too friendly.
I only have one thing to say to you. And that is Pasadena Animal Shelter at PasadenaHumane.org.
Oh my God.
Please
gosh.
donate to save the animals. Ryan over here throwing dogs under the bus because they're too sweet to live.
It was too sweet.
Too sweet to live.
It was an innocent. It was a poor innocent.
Oh my
Poor
God.
dog.
Well, I'm gonna take the easy way out and just talk about the main character. I'm just gonna say, what is it? Aoyama is his name. Why did he get victimized? Don't stick your dick in crazy, man. All right, it's all you.
It's true.
Like you did a lot of horrible things in your life, and you would have gotten away with it if you hadn't done the oldest rule in the book: don't stick your dick in crazy.
Repeatedly.
I mean, well,
Not even the same crazy. He did some crazy. He did some multiple crazy dicks.
well, and at a certain point, that crazy is going to come back and bite you in the ass and take your
That's
foot.
karma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is. He got every little bit of karma. I think we've clearly said we've clearly defined whose side we're on this show.
Well, the crazy thing is, like, he deserved to get what was coming to him. I think the question becomes, did he deserve the extent of what came to him? And that might be up for debate.
That might be, yeah.
He definitely deserves some comeuppance.
Yeah.
We can all agree.
Yeah. I think everyone got their just desserts in this, except for the dog. I will disagree with you on
Yeah,
that.
the poor dog.
You were the
You
one that
think
said he got what was coming to him.
Whoa! I did not. I just said that it made a mistake. There's a difference. I did not say the dog deserved it.
You know what I was just
Earned what
thinking
he got.
about
He
too?
was quiet, so he earned it. All right.
I did not say that.
Do you think
I did not say he earned anything. I said the dog was too sweet and that all it did was it could have made some noise. It didn't know better. It's a poor innocent victim.
It paid for its ignorance with its life.
You know, if this was a John Wick movie, we'd have like 4 other auditions because they killed that damn dog.
Oh God. Yeah,
I was just thinking that, like, I wonder if his son's friend died because they called the ambulance. Remember? I totally forgot about that in the movie. He's like, it was crazy. My friend got sick. We called an ambulance. And I was just like, I forgot that was that crazy. Like, something crazy happened for his son off screen while dad's getting tortured, to death. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, but whatever. He's a plot point. The friend is just he's got plot armor.
The friend
He'll be
is
fine.
Joy.
He'll be fine. But
The
that
friend is the joy.
his friend's a joy. Yeah, who cares?
The friend's the joy. He's he just has to be there so that the son can come home.
That's another one. The Choi Award, the useless character.
Oh my
Gentlemen,
God.
we're going to be here as long as we were for the substance if we keep going like this. We've got to
Let's
give our
chat
Scully
it.
Awards. We have to give our Scully Awards to Audition, and then we're going to head towards the finish and find out what Ryan's next prompt is. As well, we got to find out, Dan, what your movie's going to be for the next
my
episode.
choice is, yes.
Yes. So Ryan, as the guy who picked Audition and picked on puppies while you're at it, could you please give us your Scully first? You're never living it down.
I am being slandered. All right.
Too funny.
Past the puppy slander. I am going, honestly, I have to give it an 8.
Whoa!
I got to give it an 8. I think that there are pieces of it that I think it gets a little the jumpy kind of surreal, what's real, what's not, and kind of just dumping it all in the end and then just ending definitely felt a little. It was a bit of a bummer for me. I wanted kind of some of that meat. And there are some of it, like they had some big reveals during that whole sequence. But the fact that some of it's left very ambiguous as to what actually happens and what doesn't felt a little disappointing. I kind of wanted to just sit in some of the realizations and really have them hit. And some of them I feel like are undermined by the doubt of the uncertainty of where reality and where the timeline lies. But God, the just the visceral sense of that, of the needles, and like how effective that scene is brutal. And the message of kind of her being essentially just like a vigilante on the part of victimized women as absolutely unhinged and like not to justify her actions at all. Her actions are horrendous, but the fact that she at least has like what's kind of underlying a noble cause to her very twisted actions, as misguided as they are, I think is a powerful statement and brings the movie into a broader context than it would normally be. And I think it's fairly well executed. So I feel like it plops right in at that 8 where it does what it wants to do well. It just gets a little funky at times. And I wish it had I wouldn't say it pulled its punch, but it kind of lost some of its force in the swing at the end.
You'd be the first person to ever say that Audition pulled its punches.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it pulled out. I would just say it lost some momentum in the swing, and so I'll give it an 8.
Fair enough. I think that's a great score, especially like coming at it from zero, having no knowledge of it, and not being a big horror head, coming into this show to come out with as gnarly as Audition gets. Man, that's an awesome score. Great. I'm glad to hear you liked it that much. Dan, your turn. What the third time you've seen it now?
Third time. On
the third time's a charm. What are you giving it for a Scully Award?
Okay, so I won't go to as long as I usually do, but I will say that I was gonna go in and say a 7, but after hearing Ryan talk about it, I'm gonna bump up to an 8, and let me explain why. Upon my third viewing, this is the type of movie that upon viewing over and over, it doesn't have the same shock and awe as it did that first time. So if I jump back to when I first saw this movie And now after that 40-minute mark where the whole thing shifts and it becomes this whole new movie and everything unfolds and they show you these insane images, I remember it staying with me for a long time, and it still is. I mean, and it's the movie that introduced me to Japanese horror, so it really got me into that genre as well, and it kind of opened my mind what you could do. So I was gonna say 7 because that first third is really hard to get through the more you upon rewatch. Like, it's just drags, dude. It just really drags. I was like, man, this did I remember this movie being as great as it is? And so finally when it does kick off. So I'll say an 8 just because I think upon rewatching it, it doesn't have that as strong as of a value or as an impact. But if you go back to being in Ryan's shoes, seeing it for the first time, it does have that nice gut punch of a twist halfway through.
Oh, and it's such a good twist when that bag first moves. It's just
the bag, man.
The
bag,
bottom
dude.
just falls out.
The bag.
Woo! Such a great moment.
So good.
I actually, and I'm gonna come in and say that coming into watching it, I was ready to give it an 8 as well. And actually, after watching it for this 5th time, I'm gonna actually have to come in and give it an 8 with a caveat. I love this movie. I agree. The reason that it's not higher, that's not like a 9 or 9.5, is because of just that the first half is such a setup for the first time you watch it, to lull you into it, to make you think this is actually a mannered drama, or maybe a little satire, maybe a little comedy, that kind of thing. And at the 5th time, I don't really need it. You can cut out 20, 30 minutes of this movie, and it would be a lot easier to watch over and over and over again. But I can't argue that this movie's not brilliantly made, brilliantly shot, brilliantly directed, edited, conceptualized, executed. And as we were talking about in the show, the deeper meanings in it, I think, still maybe more relevant than ever. And for it to nail all those things 26 years ago is phenomenal. I'm actually going to bump it up to 8.5. Simply because I'm biased and I love Japanese movies. So Japanese automatically gets an extra half a point. So 8.5 skulls from me. Ryan, it means that you are now out of a movie, and that means you need to reach over.
I have no prompt.
Oh, there
right,
we have
Chris
Hemsworth turn.
The Avengers
Chris
bucket.
Throat, and to see what you come out
He's
with.
down in there.
All right, let's see. I got David Cronenberg.
Whoa! Oh, we are going to have a hot time in the old town tonight. It's funny. We just did The Substance, which is a very Cronenbergian movie.
I mean, we have the word Cronenbergian because of this guy. So
yeah,
I mean,
Ryan, you're gonna have a fun time picking a movie from his.
Well, I'm gonna have to look up his catalog because I don't know anything about David Cronenberg.
Oh, it does say David. It's like, so you can't do any of his son's movies. Okay.
Well, it specifically says David Cronenberg.
Okay, specifically.
So I'm gonna have to look up his catalog because I don't know any of his stuff.
You can honestly.
I'm so curious what you're gonna choose.
With the exception of a couple of his dramas, you can pretty much throw a dart at a bulletin board covered with his movies and get a good one. Mm-hmm. One that's worth watching. So,
well, I'm excited.
Maybe
I have no idea what you're gonna choose.
Maybe pick like 3. Maybe pick like 3, and we'll give you like a little wink, like that one. Do that one. But all right.
Well, so half of the fun is at least this one. I like. There's not a twist associated. I didn't want to pick one that didn't have a betrayal in it, so I feel like that was like a special circumstance. I feel like even if I kind of have to throw the dart at the board with this one, and then we get something wild. That's the fun of it, right?
So that'll be interesting.
I love it.
Throw a wrench in it. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we're gonna find out what Ryan ends up picking.
Let's see what you get, Ryan.
In 2 episodes, not next episode, but the episode after. Because next episode is Dan. You had. Would you tell us what your prompt is and what movie you decided for us all to watch for next episode?
My prompt was technology, and I went. Of course, I like to take the prompt and I like to twist it a little bit and go a different route. So I went with this movie. Came out in 2020 during the nostalgic time of the pandemic, and when we were all locked inside. And this movie is called Host. And the reason that I picked it and what it relates to technology is it was shot entirely using Zoom. So I love it.
Oh, okay.
So is it like it's like a found footage or
It's a found footage movie, which I particularly love the found footage subgenre, so which is why I lean towards it. And I really was blown away by it because we've had decades of found footage movies now, and this reinvented it in a really fun way, capitalizing, like jumping in right on when everybody was on Zoom. So it made it so relatable because you were already sitting on Zoom calls anyways, and now you see this horror unfolding in a Zoom call. And I had a lot of fun with this movie, and I hope you guys do too when you watch it.
kind of like Unfriended? Is it like it's like
Better than that.
Oh, yeah,
is it
yeah.
like
Much
it's like
better
really?
than that.
It's like-
much better than that.
I think it's called like Screen Life, like the found footage sub genre.
Oh, that's a
of, like,
subgenre
I
of that?
think so.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll have to look for. Okay, so
We're getting deep.
Yeah.
I know I haven't seen this movie, so this gonna be a new one on me.
Stick with me. Meta.
Whoa,
Oh, no. But there you go.
Jeez. All right. Well,
Now that's the true horror of the internet right there.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we've horrified all of our listeners with that one. And on that note, we're gonna dip on out of here, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here on our show talking about Audition. Dan is giving me the high sign.
Sorry, I got one other thing. I highly recommend that if you have not seen Host and you're going to watch it before the next episode, watch it on a laptop, watch it on a computer. It really gets you into the mood. Better yet, sit in a dark room, no lights, and you and the laptop and some headphones, you're right there in the moment. You don't need a TV for this one. If you are on a laptop, you're going to be right there in the zone. It's so good.
All right, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Sold. We'll follow your advice. So to everybody, watch Host on your laptop in a dark room by next episode, as per Dan's wishes. And thank you for joining us for this episode where we talked about Audition. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully
It
Ryan,
was so much fun.
hopefully Ryan can
So
sleep
fun.
tonight as he pets his
So
cats.
fun.
Thank you guys, everyone. Thank you for listening to us. We really appreciate you joining in on the show, and we will see you next time right here
This is
on
why